Hey, welcome in everybody to the next edition of the JB and Steel Shows. We're here for episode 22 as we're going to dive into the NHL Award, the next game of the Stanley Cup, Game 4, and do a little bit of baseball talk as the wrap-up for you. The most valuable player, Steel, first, how you doing today? But I think we all expected in the end, when it comes to how good of a season Austin Mathews had, Toronto did not have the playoffs they wanted for about the 85th straight season. But they did get the trophy winner in Austin Mathews. So first
He's got a lot of trophies, doesn't he? He's just got right. He's got a lot of trophies, doesn't he?
Austin? Well,
Yeah.
Austin, yeah, he's a guy.
Yeah. He's got a lot of trophies.
He has a certain particular style, too, when you see him on shows
I'm with
stuff.
you.
Yeah.
So how are you doing, man? Wow, can you believe this? We're on volume 22, the JB and Steel Show, brought to you by the SteelFlyers All Sports Network. Thank you, Pro Joe. I'm SteelFlyers, the co-host. Man, we got a lot of stuff to get into. So just like Pro Joe said, man, I'm really excited about this game 4. This is the second game now in Tampa Bay. And I'll tell you what, man, this has been some really exciting hockey.
It's been kind of. It's been. I mean, the scoring's been good. Would I prefer to have the games closer? Yeah, because honestly, like, did I shut off Game 3? Yeah, because I knew Tampa was going to win. Did I stop paying attention when people were outside and we were watching Game 2? Yeah, by the time it was nothing.
Yeah.
So, like, the only game that was really, if we want to say interesting to me, really was Game 1, which went to OT. Where after that. Yeah, it was fun to watch. It was cool seeing the great plays by McKinnon and by all the other stars like the Nichushkins that's having a good series. But at a certain point, like, I don't want 7-0 and 6-2. Like, if we're playing the Stanley Cup, I want it to be more like the first game when it's 4-3. So, yeah, it's been good in some aspects, but overall, this Stanley Cup, I would say, has been not what it's been made out to be.
Where like the hype isn't matching up.
Yeah, the hype's not matching the games. Where the hype was good for Game 1. Both goalies kind of started out suckish and then figured it out. And then in overtime, the Avalanche were able to win. In Game 2, the Avalanche just mollywopped the Lightning, and the Lightning basically should have just waved the white flag.
Word of the day.
Wiley the Coyote, and just never played any of the rest of that game after about 15 minutes in. But
something like that.
When it came to the third game, that game, Colorado started off good with Landeskog and then just completely fell flat until, again, Landeskog scored. So if anybody else showed up, they would have been fine. But only one guy in terms of the scoring output. Vazzy also had his best game then. But at the same time,
I was just going to say, Tampa Bay really came out in Game 3.
Like, for 39 shots in Game 3, a lot of them were crap. So, like, the fact that they, like, that goes a lot with the stats can be deceiving. Colorado might have already almost had 40 shots, but I would say 10 of them might have actually been effective. So, like, that's not going to help you. And then the Lightning had less shots at 33, but 20 of them might have been effective because they were having a very good game in their offensive zone. So they played much better. I do think the team that's going to have the better bounce back and has the answers, just everything that came up this year. At this point, from looking at it, I picked Tampa to be into the series, but from even in this game, I think Tampa just got lucky that they were able to throw Colorado off of their heels early, and the only guy that was able to kind of stay even keel was Landeskog. I think in this game, Colorado's going to come out in bunches. I still don't see, even though I picked them at the beginning, Tampa coming back in this series. I see Colorado going up 3-1 tonight because I see them going, we're not getting slammed again. If anything, we're slamming you in this game, and you're losing 6-2 in Tampa.
You know, that's a great point that you make there, Pro Joe, because they have dictated, and Tampa Bay is usually the team that dictates to others, and they've been dictated too, where Colorado has been dictating the play to them. Even in Game 1, Colorado was still, I mean, and then I would even have to say too, somewhat in Game 3, but Colorado just didn't show up enough. And I think Tampa Bay was riding that wave of, you know, hey, we can do something here. We can make them bleed a little bit, right? We can swing for the fences and make them bleed. I'm in agreement with you on that, Joe. I really think though that Tampa Bay is probably that was their gas right there. You know what I mean? Was that game 3? If Tampa Bay wins tonight and evens up the series, then it's on. But I also agree. I think Colorado is going to really come out, especially if Kadri plays. I really think Colorado's just going to come out swinging.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and I think that's why they're taking game 3. I still, at this point, would have to switch it and favor them now, and probably 6 over the White.
And it doesn't even matter if Francouz starts or if Darcy Kemper starts, because I think at this point they're pretty much at this level. You know what I mean? Like Darcy Kemper and Francouz. I mean, look, I know that Kemper is the quote unquote better goalie, but Francouz played really well. Okay. So
yeah, he's just a dead line backup. He's like what you've seen Pedersen in LA develop into. He hasn't developed into a starter yet. That's what Francois is. There's guys. Lauren Brousseau is a straight up backup. He's not a 1B.
Yeah,
he's just a backup that fills it nicely. And when you're in Bednar's system, that really helps. But I think both have been good. I think Kemper is definitely the guy that if you have to make the key saves like we saw in Arizona when he was there, he's going to make more key saves than Pavel Francois.
And he made more of the highlight reel. He's made more of the key saves in this series so far and so far in the playoffs when he's been there. Do you know what I mean? But he got pulled right in game 3. So and Francois, he only allowed 1 goal after that. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I think he's played really well. Maybe you start him tonight. What do you think?
I wouldn't think so. I just think I think Kemper got pulled because the Avalanche sucked more than he didn't have a good game, but the team also didn't have a good game.
Okay, yeah. So
I think when you are in the Stanley Cup, you can't play around with your backup goaltender. The only time you do that is if your starter is banged up. Now, if he's banged up again, then yeah, that's a completely different story. But
we're not seeing that though.
Mine is that I would not take him out because the only time you do that is maybe if you had this game and you came out flat. Then in Colorado, you would debate putting him back in, but that's still a debate at that point.
Right.
Rolling with him. And again, I think they're going to go up 3-1. But something we do have to talk about, because you mentioned with the Avalanche about rolling, a team that was rolling that I think made the wrong decision. And to be quite frank, I don't care if they suck next year, because that's how much I think they made the wrong decision. Even if Giroux's still on the team, I could give a flying hoot if they suck next year. Right. I don't know why the Panthers got rid of Andrew Brunette. That is a bit of a I understand what Steve was saying when he was on. Yes, he sucked in the playoffs, but who gives a crap? Most people are going to suck in the playoffs in their first season when you had Joel Quenneville, who, let's just say, is not in my good graces right now, as your coach at the start of the season that, for good reason, is not a coach in the league right now, and Gary Bettman's debating if he should ever let him be again. And then you have Burnett come in and really do good things and get your team that far.
Yeah.
Andrew Brunette, to be honest, Pirlo was right about one thing. It was about Bob. Andrew Brunette was not the main reason the Panthers fell in the end. It was the fact that Sergei Bobrovsky we saw this year he can be good in some of the playoffs, but in the end he still sucks in terms of getting you over the hump in the postseason. So it's going to be interesting
too many goals
to see who he ends up going to, because for 50%, there are teams that will take what he provides in the regular season, definitely for only 50% of the total cost of his contract. But it's going to be interesting to see where he goes, because to me, he was the biggest culprit to why that and their defense. Their defense all of a sudden, which I don't think is on the coach. I think that was on the players just being out of position and trying to compensate for Bob starting to struggle. I don't know how they got rid of Burnett. And also for me, is Paul Maurice the right head coach? Because Paul Maurice used to be a great head coach. The key word I said is used to be, because he kind of left, and I was fine with him leaving Winnipeg at the time when being Pirlo talked about that. I think it was on his show. But the reason he left Winnipeg was because he was kind of done with it. He said, I've tried everything. I've done everything. I've kind of am over this. let me move on to something else. Well, what says he's 100% back into it now? Just because he told you he is, he might just want money. So the other side of it is we have to see early on if he's actually even fully into it or if he just came back for this to have more riches. And I don't necessarily see Paul Maurice as that other side of a person, but I don't know because he left the Jets more on a – and it was a real right decision for him there, but he left it as this is kind of the end of the road for me. And now he's coming back with all this, roo-ha-ha. Is that real or is that more, this team looks really good and I can make my cheddar here. Let me go coach the – like that's what I'm going to be interested
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I agree.
Going forward, and that's why I would have kept Brunette.
That blew me away.
When you build a system already, even if you get smoked in the postseason, the Stars sucked in the Stanley Cup. They didn't get rid of Rick Bowness after they got all the way to the Stanley Cup and then sucked in it. They just got rid of him recently. So I think the big part is Andrew Burnett's going to be on somebody's team quickly, and he's probably going to at least be an assistant for somebody. But the other side of it is why it just doesn't make sense why you would make that move, especially for a coach. Yes, Paul Maurice is a guy that is or was a great head coach, depending on what you want to say, but now I have my doubts on is he still great. He was a great head coach in all of his past endeavors, but times change over time, and we saw AV ain't a great head coach anymore. Paul Maurice and AV have a lot of similarities in the way they do things. Is that style not necessarily working as well as it used? So that's something we're going to have to see going forward.
Well, here's the thing that's blowing me away is that they waited until now.
Yeah, also, why did you – and then it was also back and forth. You had stuff of, they were going to move on, and then I think it was 2 days ago I saw online that it was, now they're trying to solve their differences with Andrew Brunette, and then they hire Maurice, where Maurice, again, like, I don't think he was ever a bad head coach. It's just now I question from how he left Winnipeg.
I understand
and
that.
Also, if his style, like if AV came back to anywhere that's not Montreal, because he just, I think, would work with Montreal because he speaks both languages. They have St. Louis now, so that doesn't matter. But if he came back to any other place, I don't think it would work. Where is the place that is going to work for Maurice? Florida? Maybe, because Florida's a pretty easygoing, loosey-goosey, blah, 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 nobody cares about anything area of the country. Paul Maurice kind of fits into that. So that might work, but we have to kind of see if it works going forward and if the players that are on the Panthers match the fact that the state of Florida is pretty loosey-goosey beach-going. That doesn't mean every single player on the Panthers is a loosey-goosey beach-going personality. So that's something that's going to be interesting to see going forward, too. I feel like they had something and then kind of just moved on from it. But that's...
I agree with you, though. Because that's a little bit of an odd duck kind of thing to where he stepped away from the game on his own. Like, he wasn't fired. He went to ownership and said that I can't do any more with this team. Now, some people came out and said that's a very being very self-aware and all that other stuff, but quite honestly, I think it was I mean, I don't want to say because I don't know, you know what I mean, but I
don't mind the self-awareness. I think it's just when you come back, you're going to have to show in the first couple months
so quickly after you said that, I can't do anything with this team. And like now you suddenly think you could do something with Florida. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm blown away and I'm a little shocked at this, to be honest with you. I really thought that Burnett was doing an excellent job in Florida. I thought he was destined to be able to help them get to the next step, you know what I mean? And everything like that. But I guess that's not the case. And so also, DeBoer right now is with the Stars, or DeBauer, or
Pete DeBoer. I like Pete DeBoer as a coach. I'm not sure how he's going to do with Dallas because Dallas doesn't necessarily seem to have the roster that Pete DeBoer can implement the best. You have quite a few slower, aging guys mixed in with the Jason Robertson.
Well, you kind of look at that kind of situation too with Tortorella in Philadelphia. Tortorella's a
Flyers
coach.
actually have a younger team because they just don't have as many good veterans.
Well, that's what I mean, though. But
the Stars have a few more old, just as natural.
Yeah, there's no stars on the team, and it's just kind of like, is he going to be the guy that can come in and right that ship? Because, in my opinion, I think he's the right coach if they're one or two steps away. I just think they're more than one or two steps away.
Yeah, well, also the difference is DeBoer. I don't know, like we talked about with Jim. Tortorella is no matter if your team still sucks, he's going to give you a style and he's going to give you a way of playing. The team might still win 30 games, but
that's what Philadelphia needs. They need that culture change. They need that.
Where I'm not sure if DeBoer is more. Like at least from what I always got from him is he's like the mix of being the motivator and the guy that might get up on you if he knows he can get up on you, but
he seems more of an X's and O's guy.
Yeah. I don't know, like with Tyler Seguin might need somebody that's more like, yo, get your head out of your rear end and do what we know you can do. Where Ben at this point is what Jamie Benn is. He's just not as quick as he used to be. You have guys there. Pavelski's still a good older player.
Right, and you got Rupe and you got Robertson. I mean,
Dellandrea is a young kid that he could develop. Maybe Patterson he could develop as a fourth liner. He had a decent season. Maybe he could get beyond if they keep him again. So there's different things DeBoer is going to have to do. It's just this team is going to be interesting the most he can get. I don't know what the big thing they're going to need is probably a backup goaltender, unless if they want Adam Steele being goaltender too young guy. But I think it's going to be a fun team to watch because Dallas always plays competitive style. It's just I'm interested to see what DeBoer because DeBoer usually brings more offense than any of the recent coaches that Montgomery and or in bonus.
And that's exactly what Dallas needs.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he's able to do with that because they don't have a lot. Like Marian Studenic is a very good checker, two-way player. I watched him play a lot in the minors when he was playing the Phantoms. Fosca's better defensively. Glendenning's a better face-off defensive guy. Dellandrea might develop more offensively, but he's probably more of a bottom six offensive guy.
I agree, yeah.
Patterson, same way. And then Gurianov might become a 25 goal scorer. So maybe you get more of your offense there if DeBoer gets him going again, and maybe Kiviranta can become in the teams for you. So you keep getting more goal scoring there. But it's about trying to find that and figuring out who in the minors, like if anybody like Gardner, who played only 4 games, is able to do anything for you. If that kid Oscar Bach can do anything for you as a bigger kid. Same with Camano. So like it's all about figuring that stuff out. But I like Peter DeBoer and I wish him success. I just wonder if Dallas is the best fit for his talents, and it's going to be interesting to see that going forward because he is a coach that tends to bring more offense. So I'm interested to see if he can do that because in some of these guys, they just seem way more defensive than offensive, but maybe he can find the offensive side of their game.
That's where I think Dallas has lacked over the last couple of years is that offensive. They have some skilled players. They have some talented players that can put the puck in the back of the net, but they just have lacked that offensive push or that push back. When teams score against them, they haven't been able to. You know what I mean? They just lack that offense. So I don't know. Of course, Igor Shesterkin with the Vezina.
Yeah, I think everybody knew that was coming. I don't think anybody was going to debate that one. Igor Shesterkin clearly deserved the Vezina. It seems like the Russian duo is going to be the future of the NHL for a bit until Vasilevsky, who's older than Shesterkin by a bit, probably falls off a little bit quicker than Igor, but they'll both probably still be great for about 7 years at least.
I mean, he was fourth. Vasilevsky was fourth in the voting. He still got 15 votes.
Yeah. So, and then Markstrom, I saw, got a lot. Yari got a couple.
Markstrom was second or third, I think. Right? Soros was second after, and then Markstrom, and then And then Vasilevsky was the guys there. So, but
Yeah.
Shesterkin winning the Vezina. Man, I'll tell you what, I'm going to be interested to see how this team goes next year. New York.
New York, I would say they're one of my Cup favorites for next year.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I'd have to say, because man, if they're bringing back most of their guys and their core stays, right? And now you got
they also have a good prospect system.
So that's what I mean, right?
Leaves, they're just going to put somebody in.
Right. So I'm looking for New York to do really well next year, and then we got what's the Austin Mathews Trophy that he won?
He won the Mathews ended up winning the Hart for the most valuable as well.
Yeah.
Where I think he earned that this year. I mean, the way that Austin Mathews played, there was a lot of guys that could have won the Hart this year because you had a multitude of people over 100 points. But Austin Mathews, I would say, is by far the best goal scorer currently.
If you took Austin Mathews off of the team, right? Now, when he missed those couple of games, they were still able to win those couple of games.
They have Mitch Marner and other guys that can play.
Okay, but if you took him off the team for the entire season, that's not the same Toronto team.
No, yeah, exactly. He's the best goal scorer. Mitch Marner's one of the best two-way players in the league. Austin Mathews is one of the best goal scorers in the league. That's why the two blend so well together. And then there's Nylander. That's why Nylander might be the odd man out, because he's kind of the guy where you say. And then there's Nylander.
And then but he still had quite a few.
There's nothing wrong with Nylander. He still plays well. It's just when you're the guy that you're saying, and then there's blah. Typically, you're the odd man out at that point in that entire situation. When it comes to the Norris, I'm happy for Makar. I think he's a guy that deserved to win it also, but I would have gave it to Josi, because Josi, I feel like now Makar is going to be one of these next generational guys, but there's no chance Nashville was in the postseason. I don't care that Colorado got to the Stanley Cup, let alone the postseason. If Nashville did not have Soros or Josi, I don't care about Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson. They are what they are. Nashville's not close to the postseason. Like, they're not remotely close to the postseason without, even just with Soros and take Josi out, I don't see that team even being close to the postseason. So I feel like that's why I have to give the Norris to Josi, because Colorado, we already saw them getting good. For example, the perfect example is they were already a good team before they put Makar in. They got to the postseason. Guess where Makar came in? The damn postseason. That's when he first started doing well. So the proof is already there that they were good without him, and now they just got exponentially better. Where Nashville, I don't even think is good without Roman Josi.
I agree with you. I agree.
He's the big reason they actually got to the postseason. So that's that's the difference I make. Where the other side of it is, if I was a voter, I would say Makar's going to win these more than Nicholas Lindstrom won them in his damn career. What the heck do I have to give another one to? Like, why do I have to give this to him now? So, like, it's also the side that Josi deserved it, and he's 33. Makar's 22. He's going to probably break the record for Norris by the end of his career. So it's not like I have to throw a bunch his way. Him and Seider are probably going to be going up against each other for years to come.
Probably.
Norris trophy. So, like, from the fact that I think Josi, because his team would have even been good without him, I would have went there. Now, the thing is, though, me saying this, Makar would have been second. So it's not like I care that he won, because Makar would have been my second vote. But I think you have to weigh more, and I don't think the voters ever do this enough, weigh more the teams they're actually on and not just the quality of play.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I made that example of, when with Mathews winning the Hart. Like, if you took him away from Toronto, right, you took away his MVP, then Toronto is not the same team. And it's the same thing with these other guys. You take these guys off the team, they're not the same team without these guys on the team. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're still going to be able to be a successful team, but it's not the same without these guys on it. You know what I mean? It's just so.
No, right. And then the Calder.
Yep.
Speaking of, that's kind of why I led into bringing up Mr. Mo. Moritz Seider ended up winning the Calder trophy, a guy that we're probably going to see in the Norris trophy race.
I was just going to say, I'm surprised he wasn't,
I would have gave him a vote for this year. I wouldn't have gave him a top vote, but I would have gave him a vote for this year, definitely, without what he did as a rookie. But He deserved the Calder. I mean, it was either him or his teammate. It was either going to be Raymond or it was going to be Mo. And when you're able to be that dynamic offensively as Mo Seider was and still be that stout defensively as a rookie, the only guy it really reminded you of was the Norris Trophy winner in Makar, who came into the league and went, oh, what's so much more difficult about college? I don't know what the hell all you people are talking about. This is easy.
Yeah, right.
What were you all saying? I just jumped right in.
Did you say play defense? Oh, did you say be able to score? Oh, did you say, yeah, I mean, what?
Like, pretty much, that's, I think we're getting a lot more stylistic defensemen nowadays that are basically take Chris Letang and then multiply him, and that's what a lot of guys are replicating their game around. Which, I want to be great offensively, but I also want to be the guy that, if my team needs a comeback, just like Letang was when Crosby and Malkin have been injured on the Penguins in the past, it's cool. Like you saw in that one Pro V play for Flyers.
Yes.
He's one end of the ice, and he's like, screw it, get out of my way, move. And then he's taking it like a forward from one end of the ice to the other to score because he's like, the rest of you are irrelevant in this play. You have done nothing for the last 40 years.
I mean,
Move out of my way. And then he goes down and just scores. That's pretty much what Cal is able to do. He doesn't have to do as much because Cal, of course, on one of the most stacked teams I've ever seen in my life. That's also what Letang has done, whether he's on a stacked Pittsburgh team or this year's Pittsburgh team, which I would not label stacked. Then that's also what Seider's going to do, and he's going to actually have to do early in his career because the Red Wings are still building. So over time, he's going to be able to balance himself out more. But I would say next year and the following year, he's going to have to be a little bit more offensive than he's going to have to be when he's in his mid-20s because they're having more offense that comes up through that prospect system they're building up.
Yeah.
And if, say, Vezina actually gets more offensive. So you have different stuff like that that'll happen. But I think he perfectly deserves. He's one of the most, like I told Pirlo and the things. I didn't think I would be when I had the subscribed to the NHL thing, watching a bunch of Detroit games. Coming into this season, one of the teams that I did not have slotted to say, I'll probably end up watching a good amount of their games this year, was definitely not the Red Wing. But the fact that they then had Lucas Raymond come in, who was one of the best, and Mo Seider, who are both completely different players, one forward, one defense. Obviously, you're just going to take your eyesight to the Red Wings a little bit, and you're going to pay attention to them, and rightfully so, for sure.
Exactly.
So, and then let's be honest, the Selke was a little bit skewed because, yes, Patrice Bergeron, I think, again, who we should probably just stop calling this the Selke pretty soon, but Patrice Bergeron won the Selke.
You mean the Patrice? He won the Patrice Bergeron?
He won the Bergie.
Yeah, there you go.
But, so the Selke, or a.k.a. Bergie winner, Patrice Bergeron, depending what he decides to do, one of the best defensive face-off forwards of my entire life. Again, born in '96 here. He was one of the most exciting guys to watch from that dynamic, a guy that you hate to play against, but a guy that you wish was always on your team. And he played through a collapsed lung, ended up in the Boston hospital after a game because he could barely breathe while trying to talk in the locker room because his lung was literally collapsed. Right. So just to give some examples of how much Patrice Bergeron loves the game of hockey, and definitely if he does retire, he 100% screams, I'm coaching. He's a player that or I'm going to get involved in the game in some way, whether it's management or coaching, scouting,
all right, yeah, I could see that.
He's a guy that definitely speaks, I'm not leaving the game no matter when I retire.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I like that. Okay, cool. Well, there you go, man. We got to talk about some.
Coach of the year, Daryl Sutter definitely deserved that. Daryl Sutter got Johnny Gaudreau playing by far the best two-way game of his entire career. And he got Erica Branson looking like the best version of himself. Markstrom was he was a good goalie his whole career, but he was a heck of a better goalie with Daryl Sutter.
Well, the fact that he was third in the voting for the Vezina.
Other than Sean Monahan, but Sean Monahan just needs to move on from Calgary at this point. Everybody else really improved behind Daryl Sutter and did well, and I think he definitely deserved the coach of the year. Monahan might even be on the Flyers, who knows, but he's not going to be on Calgary next year because he's just is in one of those states of move on and see what you can do with a new change of scenery because he's a defensive first guy at this point that can produce maybe 40 points, and you're trying to get him to go back to being maybe 50 and up. But at this point, I would say he's defensive first and like around the 40-point threshold.
Yeah,
but
I'm with you.
There's nothing wrong with that, but that doesn't fit into what Calder.
Well, no, I mean when you get a little older, when you get a little older, your game drops off a little bit, so you have to tend to do things a little differently.
Yeah, well, he's also the concern with him is Monahan's still in his mid-20s. He kind of like started his career good, went into that little lull like Keller did, but I was never concerned about Clayton Keller because Clayton Keller was in his early 20s. He's only 23 now. Monahan started doing that in his mid-20s, so that to me becomes a little bit more concerning when your lull period is in your start of your prime, where then that becomes a little bit more weary for me. But in terms of him as a player, like, for example, if the Flyers did, say, trade JVR and Linus Sandin in a pick for Sean Monahan, I don't mind having Sean Monahan on my team because I think with John Tortorella and the way that John Tortorella likes to face off first defensive guys, his third-line center, or heck, his second-line center because Kevin Hayes can't skate, that might work well because of exactly what Torch was, because Torch is going to come in and say, look, even if you only produce 45 points, if you're great defensively, I'm never getting on you. Because if you're great defensively and great in the faceoff down and produce 45 points, I'm never going to have a problem with you because you're a good passer.
Yeah.
Or get credited for assists, but you're going to make that first pass that never gets credited for the assist that helps set up the play to say if he's on a line with Frost and Fairby, that set up Frost and Fairby to make a play on the wing, and you're the one that started that around the boards to get it to the point to whoever that then shot it and Frost was able to score the rebound goal or something like that, just to lay out one example. So I think he would actually fit in much better with the Flyers structure that they're trying to play with Tortorella than he does with what they need there, because they also have young guys that came up that kind of stole his spot. Where in Philly, we don't have anybody that's going to take Sean Monahan's spot right now. You actually kind of need somebody like Sean Monahan that's good defensively.
Yeah, exactly.
Speed.
Yeah.
Where you have a lot of guys that are good defensively, but they're more those stride skaters. Where Sean Monahan would actually kind of fit in better here than he would with. So that's just one example. But we went over the awards. We went over the Stanley Cup for you. Something that I think is the key thing. We'll do baseball since we ended up going long on this one. We'll do that in next week's. But
I was going to say maybe next week we could do like a baseball all-star, like do like a.
Yeah, we could talk about who we think could potentially be in the all-star. But one thing I did want to say about this year is I'm excited to see once the Stanley Cup ends. I think there's going to be a lot of cool action with the free agency. Also, a guy that I think is going to be interesting for teams who gets him is Phil Kessel. I feel like even though he's older now, who gets him is going to be the most interesting thing to follow because he could fit into so many different teams. And he could even though Torch likes defensive players, we also do just need a guy that's a sniper. So he could even fit into our team where Torch is like, I don't care that Phil doesn't play defense because he's 35 years old. I don't really expect him to play defense. As long as he scores 25 goals and shoots the damn puck, and I don't have to yell at him to do that, then I'm fine. Or he can fit into a team like LA or like he can fit into a lot of teams. Or if Johnny could leave, he could fit into, you're never going to replace his overall scoring, but he could be 25 of the goals that Johnny Gaudreau would have scored, or he could be 35 of the points Johnny Gaudreau would have got, and then you get, because that's usually how teams end up replacing superstars, by kind of puzzle piecing three guys into making up for that superstar's production. Usually you don't lose Johnny Gaudreau, and then all of a sudden the next Johnny Gaudreau walks in the door, and you're like, okay, perfect, this worked out great. Connor Zari's automatically the next Johnny Gaudreau. He's only 21, but he's producing 115 points. Like, if that happens, fantastic for him. But, like, you can't go in expecting that. So
right. Exactly.
That's more why I think they might even go for a guy like Phil, just because you tend to kind of replace points by the domino effect when you lose a star, because you can't get the same exact guy. It's just not going to happen, unless if they get Malkin, I guess, instead, and then lose Gaudreau and sign up. But then you're getting a guy that plays more center than wing, so it still changes up your dynamic of your team. You're just getting a guy that's going to produce the same amount of points per game at least.
Right. I'm with you. No, I get it. I'm with you. But how about that, man? We did a lot of coverage here on the NHL. Sorry we didn't get to the Major League Baseball stuff because we ran a little bit late on this one. But we'll cover that next show, and we'll go over the All-Star game, and we'll talk about all the All-Stars we think for the Major League Baseball. So we're getting ready for
like the fact that Patrice hasn't played a game and has like hundreds of thousands of votes for it, just like Chase Utley used to because of how much he liked around the league. He was in
right.
the whole season, he would still have a bunch of All-Star
but we're not mentioning anything, you know. Right, we're not mentioning anything, but thank you very much, Joe, for all the great stuff here, man. Why don't you tell the folks where we can find you and where we can get you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at JJBoard26. For the sports fans that also, a lot of them I know are obsessed with the music industry too. We do the All Genre Music Fest podcast.
Yeah, man, you guys got to check that out too, for sure.
Yeah, which is All Genre _Fest, the top 80s rock songs that we went 95 to 100 yesterday. The Pirlo's one I did with Motown was 1 through 5.
That was good too. I got to check that out, man. That was really good. You guys did really good songs on that one too, man.
Yeah, that one, and we're working our way backwards with that, but check that out. It's All Genre _Fest on Twitter. Borg6789 is my Instagram, and then Facebook, everyone knows, it's just searching your name. So that one should be pretty easy. But I hope everyone has enjoyed the episode 22. We covered a lot of different hockey. Also on the Sports Fanatic News, check out the show Steel and I recently just did with JJ too, where we were supposed to make by the Flyers, talked about 85 other things about the NHL, even a little bit of baseball thrown in there, and then got to talking about the Flyers. So go check out that smorgasbord, an episode that we released on my Sports Fanatic News.
Yeah, that was good, man. That was good.
Stay safe with the hockey. I turn it over to Steel to share whatever he wants to.
Yeah, man.
Share is just fun.
Thanks, everybody. You got to be checking out Projo. You got to be checking out all the great talent here at the SteelFlyers All Sports Network. Thanks to Peyton on the radio and Perlo and the great Joe and, of course, the great Lance Green.
One guy I did want to shout out that's a free agent. I forgot to do this just because of how good some of these guys are for, like, leadership. Kopitar got the Messier for the leadership, for dedication to hockey, which makes sense.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Carey Price got that one.
Got the Masterson.
The Masterson. And then the King Clancy, which is for humanitarianship, which I'm not surprised about at all because this guy's one of the best people on the planet. PK got that.
Yeah, PK Subban.
Any literal thing that involves helping, that is a charity through the NHL, there's a 99.99% chance that
he's going to be involved.
And has some level.
Yeah.
Even if he just shows up once every 365 days, there's a chance that PK Subban has some involved.
Good deal.
That's the reason why I think PK also is one of the better free agents, just because even if you sign him for 1 year and he only produces, say, 30 points and has a -10, his 30 points and a -10 is a lot different than a random guy's 30 points and a
I'm with you.
And what he brings to your locker room and to your city and to your morale of your team, where, like, for Philly, he would work out perfect because he's going to spark up the team.
No, Joe. No.
That's kind of where, like, I feel like the Flyers, as much as they need skill, they also need somebody that isn't afraid to be happy and tell people how it is. And it's like, this isn't the end of the world.
I agree. I agree with that, but I disagree. I don't think he'd be a good fit on the Flyers. But at any rate, thanks, Joe, for all the great work you do here at SteelFlyers All Sports Network. Thanks to Peyton on the radio, the great Lance Green, and the great Perlo Wisdom. And, of course, a great partner and sister, Off the Wall Hockey from John. Got to check him out, too. He's going to be broadcasting the game tonight. So you got to check him out from Off the Wall Hockey. Thanks to everybody. You can catch me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. And you can also check everybody out, from this show to the Sports Fanatic News to the great Perlo Wisdom, the Peyton on the radio, and the Hockey Writers Inc., all on SteelFlyers.com. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out. We'll catch you all on the next episode of the JB and Steel Show.